again, baby. All right, go
Yeah,
ahead. Go
God
ahead. I'll let you
again.
finish.
Yeah.
Only because my
Yeah.
end
So
is a little tricky.
yeah, but because it's all mind,
Mhm.
once we realize that, and once we, the whole thing is, you see, if I'm ever gonna upset anybody with my flamboyance or my ego and my self-proclaimed godliness, then it's going to be a Christian,
Mhm.
or because or maybe a Muslim, because their God is somewhere else, and it's not them, and it's not me, and it's some mystery. And I'm like, well, I think the universe is mysterious enough without creating more mystery. And
Yeah.
I'm happy being conscious, and because there hasn't never been a single human being ever that could even come close to expressing what consciousness is, then that to me has to be God. I made a video, and it's kind of like the best fucking video you will ever watch. It was that one. And what I said was, look, they've built this Large Hadron Collider, 17 kilometers long, and they wanted to find the God particle called the Higgs boson, because this guy called Higgs said that this particle called the boson, it's the thing that glues everything together, and they found this boson particle when they did it, and I'm like, well, look, I mean, these people are supposed to be intelligent. All the money that's gone into that because they want to find God. I'm like, well, it makes much more sense to me if you look at what is looking for God first.
Mhm.
Ask yourself, what's looking for God? And they go, oh, the brain. No, 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 no. More fundamental. Consciousness. Yes. Well, to all you scientists, all you PhDs, and all you trillions of dollars, do you know what consciousness is? No. Do you know where it comes from? No. Do you know anything about it? Well, we have it. Is that all you know? Yes. Well, doesn't it make more sense that that thing is probably God? It's the thing that you're looking for God with. But what they've done is, you see, they've forgotten all about what they're looking for God with. Doesn't that sound fucking ridiculous?
Yeah. I heard you say in a video um, that scientists can't discover God because look how they're looking for God. They're looking for God through technology, right? Can you go a little bit more into that? And I can hear you. Just give me a second. I'm gonna step out here 1 second
Yeah,
to answer that if you want.
yeah.
I can hear
Well,
you.
simply because the thing that they should be establishing first and foremost is the thing that they're looking for God with. And if they can't um, categorize, assess, um, and write equations about and do experiments which always will give you the same thing, then I would have thought that would have been the first port of call.
Right.
It's about I don't know, it's just I can't even put words together how stupid it is. But the thing is, you see, when you look at it, you go, well, look, all these people, they have a vocation. They're a scientist of some sort. They have bought into the fiction. They've put investment into that fiction. And it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson, when he was asked, have you ever taken psychedelics? Oh, no, 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 no. Will you ever? No, 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 no. And the guy goes, why? Because from all accounts, it expands your consciousness. You see incredible things. And, a person with your intelligence, surely you'd have something to say about it. Oh, I would never take it. Why? Because I don't want to break this miracle of a machine you know, and like the person interviewing him said, well, nobody has ever had it broken. They may have what considers a bad trip, but no trips are bad. They're all good. Some of them are just uncomfortable for the ego. But when you look at people like that, I say, in my infinite wisdom, the reason why people like Richard Dawkins, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and any other of the so-called intellectuals, the reason why they don't want to take psychedelics is because they've invested their whole lives into the fiction, and they're terrified that the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath their feet, and they won't know where the fuck they are and what the fuck to do for the rest of their lives, because they would see in an instant that everything that they believed was true is not. It's a fiction and it's premised in ego. When the ego dies in a big psychedelic entheogen experience, then you are the cosmos. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, what's Tyson going to be telling anybody? Where's he going to go? If he starts talking about that, there wouldn't be a single person that's going to offer him a job. And everyone's going to go, Neil deGrasse Tyson, he took some DMT and now he's gone insane. No, the guy's fucking woke up. You are all insane. You're all fucking mental. You're all mental cases. Mental, because it's all mind, you see. That's what they are. They're all mental cases. They're all mind. Once you get out of the mind, you get into the spirit, and then you see as clear as a bell what all this thing
Right.
is.
Right.
And
So
so I look at things in such an elementary way that seems so genius, because I can't fathom, you know, I just say, well, look, Richard Dawkins, you reckon there's no God, and all of your life, do you know who he is, by the way?
right, he's the guy that was in that wheelchair.
No,
He was
no,
handicapped.
that's Stephen Hawking.
Oh,
That's
Richard Hawkins.
the physicist. Richard Dawkins
I don't
is a
know who
biologist.
Richard Dawkins. Yeah, I don't know who he is.
He's British, and he's our most renowned atheist, and he's
Mhm.
been on TV all over the place defending atheism, and he's always, matched against Catholics or Christians, and he's always putting his, tuppence worth forward to denounce, religion, and people have said, well, like Richard Dawkins, you should take some psychedelics, because if you did, then you'd have a whole different view on this. But they won't, simply because it would devastate absolutely everything that they stood for. All of their work and everything they've ever said and done would be just worthless in an instant,
Right.
because it would transform their thoughts and their world. And so this is it, you see. And so people are clinging on with white knuckles to the fiction. And anybody that's invested all of their lives into school and college, university, and then they've gone into science and they've done this and they've done that and they've wrote a few papers. Well, they're so deeply seated in the fiction they could never let go of it. And so it's these people who are looking for God in a particle,
Mhm.
when they don't even know what the God is in between their ears or all around them. The God that created the cosmos, the God that created the earth. And if they don't think that, then I would say, well, what else have you got? The only thing you scientists have got is fucking Darwinism. And even Darwin says that, if the in between fossil can never be found, then my theory is worthless. An in between fossil has never been found in
Mhm.
160 years since he wrote that book. The in between bit, the missing link, has never been found. And yet the whole world clutches onto that as fast as fucking super glue, because there's nothing else. Because if they let go of those, then they end up in the abyss. They end up in pure consciousness, realizing the fiction.
Mhm.
And so you see, the whole world is invested so much in ego, so much in the material world. And this is why there's always been an energy and a conspiracy behind poo pooing spirits. Why do you think all these governments all over the planet ban psychedelics? It ain't because they care for you and they don't want any harm to come to you. They don't give a fuck, because they allow you to smoke yourself to death. They'll allow you to drink yourself to death. They'll allow you to eat fucking burgers and fries and coke yourself to death. But they don't want you to take some entheogen which makes you see God or makes you feel like you're God or puts you in the realm of God. No, 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 no. That's far too terrifying. They want to control you. So again, everything is just so simple to me. I just see it all fucking elementary. This place is a joke. It's a
Aaron,
joke through and through.
when you say they're trying to find God in a particle, what's in that particle? What's a particle?
Well, when we look at what they tell us about particles, about atoms and quarks and quavers and, all these different sorts of stuff, well, as far as I'm concerned, it's all gobbledygook. It's all fiction
Yeah,
because it's not a part of my reality.
all right.
And so therefore, I would say this is why I'm always dissing science. I'm saying that science, the Muppets. I don't believe in a single fucking thing. I believe in the greatest thinkers on the planet when they have had no investment in anything. You see, all these scientists have got an investment. They've invested their life and somebody's employing them and paying them for their, $1 million house and this, that, and the other. So, of course, they've got to keep defending it. But the likes of Plato, Aristotle, Parmenides, and, all the rest of the philosophers who never, had a horse in any race, they all died broke, Ziggy. They weren't invested in fucking nothing except finding the truth. They're
Well,
the people
mhm,
that I invest in, and
yeah,
they're the people that I have a great connection to intuitively and rationally. It's what makes the most sense.
yeah.
Plato says everything's just a fucking idea. It's an idea in consciousness. He said that 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a different perspective than you do, and I think this is why I like talking to you. And I think that you can appreciate that we both see things a little bit differently, and that's how two scientists can actually try to see how they can mesh things together,
Yes.
right? Because
Well,
I never would like somebody to always agree with me, and I'm sure you don't want that. But
yeah,
I just
no.
I just disagree with you on the drug part. Um, this is the problem with the drugs that I have. When we say scientists are trying to find God in technology, I look at drug as a form of technology. Like I even started this video when I said that the plants are an artificial intelligence, everything just seems to be happening. The problem I have is that the same way, let's say if they found God, have they truly found God? And is there like a merging where they say this is within them when they're looking at something outside of themselves and they're observing that particle as whatever that particle is as God, right? When I see somebody doing drugs, it's giving them an experience, but it's showing a lot of them. And then now, when I heard you say that there was a guy named Richard Hawkins who basically talks about atheism, he's so polarized that the people who've done drugs are telling him to do drugs to kind of get him out of that polarized side of what he's looking at. But it doesn't mean that the people who did drugs ever really truly found God. See, the whole thing is that I've never done drugs, but I've had some fucking. I mean, I definitely want to talk about my experiences. That's another thing. But to find God is a realization that requires certain energy and breath work. But like again, it's really finding that Virgin Mary, but bringing that energy up. That consciousness is all done through breath work. Your body already makes these chemicals that we're using or trying to use outside of us in the form of dimethyltryptamine, which is basically DMT for short. Ayahuasca retreats and all these things. This is the problem: is that people don't know how to. Again, you see how I told you the original intent experiment where we, how do we know what the original intent is? Are you really there in that retreat to find God, or are you just looking to get high or get a rush to some extent? They think they're trying to find God, but there's no original intent of childhood curiosity that's coming from a pure space, because children are the only things that are pure, or the Virgin Mary, pure, uncorrupted, right? We got to fight.
Well,
I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish. I'm not going to make it long. That virgin is in us that's never been touched. The whole thing is nobody, I feel like a lot of people haven't touched that. And for you to really truly say, I found Christ in man, right? It has to, the stories are telling you something, but it's all allegory. It's the greatest never ending story about us, right? The whole thing is a lot of people take it literal. But when I look at drugs, for example, these plants are outside of myself, and unless I have truly purified or I'm coming from an original pure space, I'm just having another experiment, another experience. But is the bad trips is basically because the drug is showing you what you have in you, what you are, and you're afraid of yourself because you've never faced those demons. And unless you truly face those demons or overcome that fear, which is an emotion that you're supposed to overcome, which is an illusion, and that's the reason why even humanity, time, the feminine energy, which is the negative energy, but not to say that it's bad. It's just something you overcome. The humanity overall, white people, black people, Spanish, Chinese, that's negative energy. That's why they say la humanidad, humanity, stand up for yourself. You get what I'm saying? And then you're depending on like, and to not even get religious, we can look at it from just the physical shit. The government people, that's people's god. Oh, we want to vote for who's in power. But like, if that even fucking matters, it don't matter who the fuck you vote for. They're gonna put whoever the fuck they want in there. The important thing they need is your participation, your energy, and your attention to keep that
Yep.
system going. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It's just like a sports team. You can have the NFL or UFC, because I don't watch. I mean, I watch UFC, but it don't matter. You could be rooting for one. There could be another team rooting for the other. You're both paying tickets, right? And on top of that, you're paying with interest because you're paying attention to it because you're interested in the opponents, right? So now that's the biggest currency on the planet. It don't matter who wins or loses. The organizations, the leaders, the bosses, the ones who own that shit are the ones that are winning. They took money, they took your attention, your currency, and a lot of people even go out and start fighting over this shit. I've seen people with soccer teams go to fucking war and even like like really fucking like there's like some serious shit that happens. People get locked up,
Yeah.
a bunch of shit. All that shit is harvested somewhere. It's beyond the physical. Something else is really enjoying all these fruits. You're being fruitful and multiplying. That's kind of like how I look at it from the Genesis story. And I'm gonna finish now. So when I look at, let's say, the DMT, the drugs and whatnot, if you're not in tune with yourself, you're having an experience. You are in a state where you feel this bliss and nirvana. But when I had this experience, Aaron, I'm telling you, man, this is why I even said it in the other video. I didn't feel nothing. I had no body. It was just like it felt blissful only because I've never felt that light in my life. And the word light, look at when they say, "Oh, I found God, I found the light." It's light, but you feel so fucking light. Like the vibration is, you could say, vibrating high. You're light. You lit yourself up because you turned yourself on. That's why I said the difference between making love and having sex. You could get turned on sexually in a lustful way, or you could get turned on like really turning on your buttons, pushing your buttons and getting that fucking appliance going, and your whole body becomes like some fucking cosmic light that it's beyond the words, it's beyond explanation. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I started to realize what actually, when people say, "Oh, God is dreaming us," or like humanity, we're all in a dream. Like everything outside of me are all spirit guides. Like you're a spirit guide, right? Because you're a spiritual being. Everything is spirit here. But once we realize that everything's spiritual, that's when you really have a blueprint to how the physical actually works. So, for example, let's say if you were born in the time where Adolf Hitler was born, but I happen to be a lot younger than you, and you tell me about Adolf Hitler, well, shit, I mean, I never saw Adolf Hitler. You did, so I take your word for it. You could give me a version of Adolf Hitler that was bad or good, though, right? Because there's different conspiracy theories now online saying that Hitler was actually the good guy, right? So now what do? You have to basically look at the virtues and principles of that individual, what that individual represented, what he did it for, what reasons. Why do I even bring this up? Because you said that, reality subjective, but also reality is it's sort of a simulation, right? You're here by yourself. There's nothing outside of you but reflections and mirrors of you, right? So all these ideas, for example, I don't know anybody though who was born around the age of Jesus Christ, but I know of this character that everybody in the planet knows about, right? What does that mean? That's only an idea or an energy that I can tap into the same way Lucifer, any demon, Belial, right? Or any angel, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel. All these are just ideas that I can tap into based on external knowledge I have of them. But unless you truly embody this idea or currency, then some people, I've heard some people online say that they've worked with certain demons and that the demon was so nice and whatnot. And then other people will say that the demon was super aggressive, right? Well, here's the thing though. Everybody has something very important that's called the nervous system. And this is the electrical system of the body. But everybody's nervous system is fucked up because of fear. It's just worldwide fear that the media pumps to you. The fear of making sure that you keep your house afloat, your family and business, everything going, perfectly. And then you got this anxiety. All the attention's going like away from what your actual true purpose here on the planet is. And it doesn't. I made a video on this. What is the purpose of life? What is your purpose? You know what I'm saying? What is the meaning of life to you? It's just energy flowing to and through you. It doesn't matter if You're in the ghetto and I'm in the fucking beautiful suburbs or whatnot. I mean, do I know what to do in that environment to begin with? If you're in the ghetto, you better know what the fuck to do, right? You could become a gang leader, but you know what to do in your environment. You acclimate yourself there. If not, you'll be somebody's bitch. Same way if you're in jail, it's you have to know what to do in that environment. If you were taken out of your environment, especially like if you committed a crime and you went into like they took you and put you in jail, now you gotta know how to conduct yourself in that environment, right? But that's the whole thing. It's just like if we're animals and animals know what to do in their environment and we're animals, like there's some people who are in their immediate environment and they don't even know what to do in their environment. They feel lost. They don't know what to do. A bird doesn't isn't told to go fly south for the winter. It just knows that shit, right? A fucking cat, you leave him outside, he knows how to survive and strive if they're not taken care of. They say any animal, they know what to do in nature. But us, for example, since we're so ingrained in this artificial system, we don't know how to conduct ourselves in this environment. We always look for something outside of us to give us answers or to depend on. You get what I'm saying? And that's the whole thing. When I say God mode, it's authority. What if once you know and you feel this like in your heart, because the heart is the projection of the world you're in. It's just that people are living up here. You know what I'm saying? And this human intellect is not all there is. It's a different level of intelligence because the heart has neurons. That's why Jesus pointed to the heart. And if you really decode that, you're having a heart brain coherence. But if you can disconnect, this is your subconscious mind. This is what the kids have an open mind, but the open mind is actually the open heart. This is how they're getting
Mhm.
programmed. Fear, you know, excitements, whatever it may be, it's all stored here. It's stored here. You know what I'm saying? And then once you grow up, you kind of like stop here and now you're up here and you think you have to do so many things. That's the problem. You think
Yeah.
you even have to do something. Well, I don't have to do shit. I could just lay back and do nothing. But you think you have to do something because you're de-evolving if you're not. But that's the whole trickery though. Energy has to move though. I'll let you cut in because I'm gonna get into something else about energy and whatnot. Because there was another thing. I know I went to DMT and went into that, but I want you to tell me what you think of that. Because when it comes to the drug part, I look at it like steroids. And I made a couple of videos 4 years ago. When I heard you talk about that, I had to go back and look at them. I made a separate folder. And if you want, you could look at them and give me your perspective on it when you get a chance. But I'd be very interested in knowing because I think I channeled those videos because I don't even remember saying half of the shit that I said in those videos. But then I'm hearing it now and I feel like my future self told me that shit in that time that I needed to make those
What,
videos
what,
four
what,
years
what,
ago.
what the video's called?
Um, uh, just type in ZigZagzilla and psychedelics, and I got two parts. I talked about the Amazon rainforest, where at that time where they were talking about the Amazon rainforest that they were burning. It's a two-part video, and I got a lot of interesting info there. And if you have anything to ever add on to that, I would definitely love to hear your point of view. But when it comes to the drugs, I look at it like steroids. You have your own testosterone. You have your own way of like producing whatever gains you have, or you can manipulate it through steroids and enhance the system. But it all always comes at a cost. You get what I'm saying? That's why I think with Neil deGrasse Tyson, he started to say that it's going to mess his machinery. And I'm only playing devil's advocate here because, again, I'm trying to see where we can find common ground here. But I feel like the drugs, if you don't know what you're doing, I've seen people lose their mind, which necessarily isn't a bad thing, right? If you lose your mind, it's a way to really find yourself, right? Because your mind
Yeah.
could be a tool or it could be something that fucks you up. And then I want you to
Yeah.
answer me what you think about thought overall. Like, what do you think about the thinking part overall about man? So I'll let you get into all that, and then I'll leave the floor to you, bro. I'm long-winded
No,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah, no worries. The DMT thing. Now, the thing is, I mean, if we haven't experienced anything, then we don't have an opinion on it, because it's a subjective experience. And if anyone says to me, if I took DMT, if I took magic mushrooms, what do you think I would get? And I'd like to psycho you for a minimum of 10 hours before I could remotely see what your mind is hate, because what these things do, they enhance what you are as an egoic person. And so
Drug, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
even
and
alcohol, if you're an angry person, you could be a real angry drunk afterwards, right?
Yeah, you get all that, but let's say that you've read my book, and so you know that I've had like 30 experiences on psilocybin and 200 on DMT, and the psilocybin it just lets you know that the whole world is alive and it's breathing. There is no doubt about that, and I have always in my life I've been attracted to stones and rocks, and every time I go to an old building made out of sandstone or whatever it is, I've got to touch it, I've got to look at the artwork that's gone into it because I think there's a sentience in this building, and these buildings carry this an energy of the builders and of the intention behind them, everything like that. And then in recent times, the penny dropped in my mind, and I went, "Hang on." They say that water has memory. In my book, there's a scientific report about water having memory, and then this is the whole thing about Dr. Emoto, that it has emotions as well. And then I'm thinking, well, I reckon that everything does, and so we know that silicon chips, silica is sand basically. We know quartz and all these things. We know magnetic tape can hold data. Why on earth can't rock? And I'm sure that rock does. It's got all the information of the cosmos going back for billions of years. And what scientists are now just starting to work on, Ziggy, and this is a really important thing, is that they're starting to look at what other stone or crystal formations they can actually extract information out of,
Mhm.
let alone put it in. And so there's a whole lot of stuff that's got yet to be discovered there.
Yeah.
Now, the psilocybin tells you that the world is a spirit, and it gets you super in touch with that, and you never look at the world the same again because you know it's living and it's breathing in everything. The DMT, it takes you completely outside of your ego. You become disassociated with this human life, and your awareness. Only there's no ego there at all. It's only awareness, aware of what you are looking at. Most of it you can't make head or tail of, but there's a subliminal message there. And in the first big breakthrough of DMT, I said that when I was in that space told me that it's me, it's always been me, and there'll never be anything else but me. When I came back from that, I
But
had the question, well,
do you think it was because it shut down the mental chatter? Is that the reason why?
it completely takes you outside of the ego and
Mhm.
you just go into pure awareness,
Right.
pure consciousness. And in pure consciousness, that is the fundamental premise of the universe. So when you go into that, when you take these things, you know that that's what you are. That's God. And then when these things, you
So
see, millions of, go on, go.
well, yeah, I'm gonna ask you. I just didn't want to lose my thought. But so then, is that something that you can enhance without the drugs, like that focus to basically chop out the mental chatter? Because the whole point to meditation is basically like a focus exercise, right? To kind of get you to practice blocking that out. Even people, like, you see, I could see this in real time where people can't even meditate. I can meditate in the middle of Times Square, but people need to be in
Yeah,
silent or in quiet. But it
no,
necessarily
that's why, no, no,
depends on your
no.
focus, right?
That's right. Depends on your focus. But the DMT world, Ziggy, is actually another world. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with Terence McKenna? Have you listened to
Yeah,
much of his stuff?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, how he speaks about it, there is actually a sentience, an intelligence, a consciousness. There's a whole new world there, and it's a very, very intelligent world, vastly more intelligent than the human ego. And when we go into that world, we can be mocked and we can be laughed at in a loving kind of way because what the DMT is doing, it's like you don't know you're having a human experience. You don't know that you're us, you're DMT, you're God, but you've got amnesia and you just think you're Ziggy sitting in a
Yeah,
car in
yeah,
freaking, in America and this, that, and the other. Concept. You've got all these concepts and you think it's a reality. It's not a reality.
yeah.
Take the concepts away. There's nothing there. When you enter into the DMT world, it's the most beautiful thing. The DMT, you see, is almost identical to dopamine. the molecule, and it flushes your brain with the god molecule. This is what Rick Strassman, Dr. Rick Strassman, he did this experiment with 60 intelligent people from all walks of life, intravenously gave them DMT, and
Mhm.
they went into DMT world for about an hour and 15 minutes averagely.
Mhm.
Every single one of them came back and they said that was absolutely unbelievable. It's the biggest thing I've ever had in my life. It was wonderful. I wouldn't swap it for the
Is
world.
this ayahuasca
And
you're talking about, or is this
well,
these two things the same?
DMT, the ayahuasca, the main ingredients is DMT.
DMT.
Psilocybin mushrooms is DMT,
Mhm.
and pure DMT. You
What
see,
is the
with the pure
difference?
DMT,
Mhm.
it's just intensity.
Okay.
Yeah, the intensity, and we create DMT. We've got
Yes.
receptors for DMT in our brains, and then when you do heavy breathing, rapid breathing, you can induce your own DMT, and then you can see, bearded men. And in actual fact, this guy I saw in the clouds looked very almost identical. It could have been me now with this.
Mhm.
And so, what's going on there, Ziggy? Was I having a vision of me in the future
Uh,
somewhere? Why did I see that? All I saw was his head, and it looks identical to what is without the glasses. And
did you ever
so when I
purge?
saw,
Did you ever purge
sorry,
while when you were in these experiences? Did you ever purge? I hear a lot of people saying that they purge, they vomit, and whatnot.
no,
No.
no, no, never purged on any of those. The only thing I purged on was on Amanita muscaria.
Yeah.
As soon as you take that,
That's a
with any
mushroom, right?
serious amount. Yeah, the red and white mushroom. Then you vomit projectile because they've got ibotenic acid, which is a poison. And so you want the muscimol, which gives you all those things I spoke about.
Mhm.
Very, very bizarre. Having other energies, living entities enter your body and live vicariously through you.
Right.
Just super, super bizarre. And so when I'm saying on my videos to these people, come on, people, stop putting these stupid fucking comments down. You should know better than this now. You've watched me for forever. Even if you've only watched me for 5 months, right? You shouldn't be putting stupid, dumbass comments down like that. You
Yep.
know, and uh, all I say to people is say, well, fucking read this person, philosophy, read that person about this spiritual thing. Read William James, the great American philosopher and psychologist. Read his book about religious experiences. You can see that people have them all over the world. They are a real fucking thing. And people that have them are super intelligent as much as the next man, and they're respected in their community. We don't have to be woo woo or just having some sort of drug experience to have these religious
Definitely.
experiences. It's what we are.
Mhm.
We're spiritual beings.
Yep.
And, so when my book is published, I've got to find a publisher which is used to dealing with philosophy, psychology, and spirituality, and then psychedelics.
Yeah.
I've got a whole lot of stuff that book.
Yeah.
So when you read that book, what's your general feeling about it? Could you follow it, or
I followed
was I
everything.
vain?
Well, this is the
Yeah.
reason why I'm asking you all these questions. You get what I'm saying? Because we've all had different experiences. Don't ever think that I'm like coming on here like challenging you to like debate you or anything like that.
No, no,
These
no,
are things
no.
that I do that I look for this in myself as well because
Well,
again,
yeah, I want somebody.
don't forget.
You're my blessing. You're
Yeah,
my creation because I've manifested you
yeah,
because you're exactly what I want. Somebody that's intelligent, that's had lots of experiences, that's took the time to read my
right,
fucking book and
right.
absorb it, and then think, hang on, I want to know more about this. I want to question him about that. I want
Yeah,
to see. Yeah,
that's right.
that's it. Yeah, I need to be questioned,
So
and I
this is
need to be
the
able to
because
express myself.
when I read your book, I didn't read it. It was an experience. Like you experience a movie, you experience the book. You got to be very, very. See, the thing is, as I'm experiencing the book, again, we come out of body to some extent. You put your soul into that book, so now it's there's a spirit. Every time you read a book, there's a spirit to the book. So I was
Yes.
experiencing you as I'm reading the book. The whole thing is that I'm now outside of that space and I know what my experiences were. And then now I can actually say, well, let's see what angle, because it's not to be disagreeable with you. It's just that sometimes I may see things one way. Everybody's got different
Yeah.
perspectives about life. So when it comes down to like what I got out of the book. Of course, all the questions are going to be correlated to what I got out of it. It's just what I'm
Yeah.
asking. And if you ever have questions to me, I definitely welcome that. I need to get that as well. But the
Yeah.
reason I asked you about the purging, and because I'm gonna tie in my experiences, the purging, and all the toxins in the human body are mainly detoxed by breathing. 70% of your toxins are released through breathing. Not everybody,
Right.
and not everybody breathes properly because, for one, it's not even just that their colon's backed up. It's just anxiety and stress. You notice how people are more shallow breathers because they're always under so much pressure. But you notice how when you
Yeah.
relax and you're chill, you're like, you could breathe better. But you notice how people are more tensed up and stiff and rigid, and because they put so much acid in their body or so much emotion, so many things they may be holding on to, it makes you stiff. So they're not breathing properly to begin with, right? But when you breathe, you stimulate certain chemicals like DMT, right? And these type of things, for example, like when it comes down to these times that I told you I was going through like certain periods where I was coming through like spirituality. I'm just saying it for the sake of conversation. You
Yep.
ever hear these spiritual people say, "Oh, I'm getting spirit ascensions"? You know what I'm saying? Like ascension symptoms. You ever hear that shit? And they're like ascension
Mm.
symptoms is like they get a cold or they get like certain. But you know what the thing is
Ah,
though? Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard that one.
Now, not yet, but you hear that. You say, "Oh, I'm getting
Ancient symptoms.
headaches now in these energies. I'm getting headaches, and I may feel under the weather." But and then the typical person hears that and they manifest a sniffle and whatnot. But in actuality, I noticed that when you get the cold-like symptoms like the flu and whatnot, this is the body's natural purging process. Actually, this is the gold standard in the body's detoxification is actually when you get a cold flu-like symptom. So when you get like
Yeah.
mucus, diarrhea, vomiting, or high fever, what do the doctors tell you to do? They tell you hydrate properly, right? So the best thing to
Flush
do is
it
just
out.
to, right. Now, in a way, though, those are all spiritual experiences. So let's say if you're going to like meditations and whatnot, you may trip your immune system into an immune response only because sometimes there's been energies that I felt going through my body. I don't know if you've ever felt it, that they've been so intense that you're like, and then you come out and you're like all jittery and shit. It's a lot of current that went through you, but you couldn't manage it. That's just you waking up the body to something that it was not ready or designed for. But then you may and people don't notice this. They'll come out with a sniffle or a flu-like symptom later on. They don't know that that's the result of that. It's kind of like when people do shadow work and then all of a sudden their life seems to get chaotic in the beginning, but it's because you're stirring the fucking pot, or you're stirring shit up, and now you're starting to fucking see real shit. Or the creature, the human, is so accustomed to shit. Like you could go into an environment and acclimate to that environment very quickly. But the thing is, sometimes you're not even aware of the shit that you acclimated to, and it doesn't even serve you. So the moment you do
Yeah.
shadow work, now you become aware of the fuckery that you're in, that it appears to be more chaotic only because you're aware of it, but it was always there as chaos to begin with. You get what I'm saying? Only
Yeah.
you're more
Yeah. Yeah.
aware of it now. So when I was going through these experiences, it happened while I was doing breath work, meditation. I started to go through flu-like symptoms, and then that's what little spiritual people say, oh, good, ascension symptoms. But people don't know what the fuck they're talking about when it says that. When you start breathing properly, you like the heart is a valve. It's not really the pump of the body. The pump is the lungs. That's why when you get pulled over by a cop, they tell you breathe on a breathalyzer, because if you're intoxicated, they want to measure the amount of toxicity in the body through the breathalyzer. So when you're breathing properly, you're even burning fat, and fat stores a lot of toxins in those fat cells. And that's why some people can't even lose like the little mid belly fat and whatnot. I'm like, well, breathe properly. It's like when you exercise. You see, when you exercise, you're forced to breathe properly. It's
Mm.
because you're oxidizing fat, but also get in a cold ass shower and you see what a real true diaphragmatic breath is. All these little things I started to pick up along the way, and it started to give me the same effects as that DMT effect. Not to say that your experiences were wrong because you did the DMT. It's just you chose a path. You know what I'm saying? There's people who do urine therapy. There's people who do extreme long fasts. There's some people who may get that experience just by fucking having trauma. Because trauma puts you in the dark space, right? But out of darkness
Mm.
comes light. So sometimes being in that dark space, it's not getting lost. Because you could get lost in lights, but you could get lost in the dark too and not be able to come out of that shit, right? And then
Yeah.
sometimes you may find another person that may guide you out of that darkness, and that person was a former spirit guide to you. That's why sometimes us doing this, and we're doing it from a pure heart space, it can impact somebody else to actually pull them out of that dark space. You get what I'm saying? So I look at everybody as a version and an extension of me. So when I do a video, I say, well, these are my experiences, but don't take them as concrete fact. You got your path. See what works for you. If I go to the gym and work out, working out is a technique. It's a sport, right? Bodybuilding is a sport. If I go work out, I may get a pump doing one way, where if you tweak your form just a little bit, you may get a pump better than me, only because your body's structured differently, or you may have just had a better mind to muscle connection in that area. Or people don't realize that there's also other connective muscles that basically take play, and you may have weaker or stronger points in that spot. It's the same thing with life. You have stronger attributes than me. You may teach me something that I don't know, even though I perceive you to be a fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? But they're always telling you something. Because it's like me. When I look at trees, trees are very informative. You know what I'm saying? Even when they were talking about, oh, the Amazon jungle's burning. Well, let them fucking burn, baby. They're fucking burning for a reason. In fact, look at trees. You notice how when you cut a tree and you got a trunk, they call it a log, right? And then you see how we got data logs or logs of information. It's like, bro,
Yeah.
through fire. Look at Jesus spoke to a burn. I mean, not Jesus. Moses spoke to a burning bush. You get information out of fire. That's why people like candles. They'll do candle gazing and whatnot. Use the elements. It's like, instead of being so fucking like victim mentality towards shit, see what you can see as far as like the brighter side of it. You get what I'm saying? You are already the darkness. Why are you putting dark into something outside of you? Just extract that and see what you can get out of it. When you empower yourself now, where in hence I always say put your oxygen mask on first, oh, you'll be a fucking guiding light for everybody else as well. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I look at it when it comes down to the drugs, the DMT. It's all a mindset, but I have to really want it and desire it. You get what I'm saying? And I got to be very pure. That's why before you go into these retreats, you notice they tell you no sex, don't eat meat, and meditate a little bit. Oh, why is that? On a light level, they're telling you to be pure before you go into that ayahuasca retreat, so that your ego's a little more numb. Notice how if you fast 3 days, right? Notice how on that third day you're not as hungry as on the second day. You're starting to put the animal to sleep. And I even mentioned when I do gardening, my animal's asleep, right? I'm having a spiritual experience, right? Because in actuality, I'm beyond the physical at that moment. Even though I'm in the physical, appearing to do something physical, I'm actually having a metaphysical experience as I'm gardening, because I forget what time it is. I mean, when you meditate, I've had lost perception this time. When I thought I was in there for 4 hours, it was like 30 minutes only. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This, yeah,
Gardening most certainly is a great meditation.
yeah, or whatever, and whatever
Simply
you're immersed in.
still.
Somebody could be in that state just doing mechanics. You get what I'm saying? Where they lose perception of time, they
Yeah.
forget to eat. It's still a spirit.
Yeah.
That's why they say everything's spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Because
Hmm.
we're all spiritual beings. We're in the spiritual realm, and the spirit is your space. You're the soul experiencing it, and it's you. You're experiencing yourself. It's God experiencing itself. Right? That's how you're
Yeah.
God, and the shards, and you're God, but you're the God projecting it without your attention. I mean, you're not. That's what quantum science is. That's one of the things it's like the hardest thing to debug. The observer, it's a theory, because people don't incorporate spirituality with that science. That's why they say it's a theory.
Yeah.
But that observer theory proves to you that that the observer is what matters. That's what determines the whole slit experiment, and where it
Yeah.
goes. You know. So tell me
Yeah.
what you think of that.
What part?
I'm sorry, man. Oh, and you know what? When you said the world's alive, I love that. When you said that when you were in a DMT trip, you said the world's alive. You know, I had this experience when I told you I'm in the garden and I kind of lost myself. I swear to you, man, there was a point where I was observing, because I love morning glories. I don't know if you know what those are. They call them burpees. They come out in the morning. They're like long vines, and you get those
Purple.
burpees.
Purple.
Yeah, yeah, they
Yeah.
come out. It actually, Terrence McKenna talks about that a lot, because there's a
Well,
lot of
those morning glory seeds, you can
yeah,
chip on them.
yeah, they're LSD. So you know that I was observing and I loved them so much that I swear I was like doing something kind of close to them, but not too close. And I don't know why I felt like everything happened in one harmonious chemistry, where a certain wind came in and the vine kind of like flew, and I felt like it bristled through me, but I felt like it was hugging me. And I'm like, wow.
Oh.
In that instant, I felt like the experience was alive. Like I was literally, it was alive. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I had an experience that the world is alive. Look at that, man. I know I saw the videos on you creating that. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful, and that came out of your creation. You know?
You see, these are what's called a green man,
Yeah.
and they have the leaves over the faces,
Hmm.
and sometimes they have horns. This is representation of life and new life.
Right.
And the green man is representation of fertility,
Yeah.
which is curious, and it's not the woman, but this is pagan mythology, religion for the northern hemisphere for thousands of years,
Yeah.
and this is what I am at heart. And this is why I've just spent so much time in the natural world, because I'm a pagan.
Yeah. That topic of drugs is very interesting to me, though. I've never done them, but I'm not saying
Well,
I would never do them. I'm
what
open to
I would
doing them.
suggest, yeah,
Mhm.
I would suggest that the easiest thing to do, and the thing that is going to cause you the least anxiety, is DMT, because you're in and you're out, and your ego disappears as soon as you take the first draw. Ideally, you've got to take enough in your lungs, which is going to give you this so-called breakthrough, which kill the ego. You go straight through into DMT world, and you see beings there and all different sorts of whatever. And if you do it open-eyed like I do, then instantly you see a simulacrum come over the world.
Mhm.
All the buildings just turn into Lego, and everything is absolutely pristine. And even a swamp is the most beautiful thing you've ever seen in your
Yeah.
life. Why? Because judgment is gone. Judgment alongside the ego is completely gone, and you just go into what is, and everything's wow. You look at this world, it's the Garden of Eden. I swear to God, the Garden of Eden, heaven and hell are states of mind. I've been in hell and I've been in the Garden of Eden. And so, I believe I can speak with authority on these things, having, experienced them. Not only experiencing them, but reading a prolific amount on them and putting it all together in a very rational and
Mhm.
sensible way. So let me just ask you this. The whole premise of that book being closer to God is my route to God. Do you think there's any facet of that book which is remotely delusional? And I'm asking you absolutely honestly, because of a few people, oh, he's lost it now. And, they don't know what some people say, I can't work out whether you're a genius or whether you're a nutter. Because they're not in my consciousness. So, as an intelligent person, would you think there's any facet in there where you would consider I'm remotely delusional?
No, absolutely not. See, the whole thing is those are your, and the thing is, I respect people's uh let's say we call them subjective experience. In scientific terms we call them anecdotal claims, right? See, the whole thing
Yeah,
is that people discard anecdotal claims because they said they're not rooted in logic, and you would have to depend on scientific studies to prove if it's true. But that's the whole thing. Now we discard ourselves to rely on something outside of ourselves, and
yeah,
it's like you don't matter. What the fuck was the point? What's the point of me being here then? You get what I'm saying?
yeah.
So
Who's
yeah,
the point
there.
of doing all these experiments
Yeah,
if we don't matter?
so yeah, I don't. Look, I sometimes I see a schizophrenic person, and I ask myself, well, how do I know that person's not insane? And how do I know I'm the one that's insane? And meanwhile, we look at that person as fucking nuts. But if you look at a schizophrenic person, they've got a higher concentration of DMT in their urine than a person who doesn't have schizophrenic. You know what I'm saying? So those are
Right.
things that science somehow doesn't like dive into. You get what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
how do I know that that person is not actually like people who have dementia? I spoke to this lady, and it really made me think, man. I was in Tennessee, and she told me, she was like, man, I'm about to lose my dad to dementia, and he's close to dying, but in his mind he's got a brand new truck, he's got a fucking big ass house, and I'm like, well, where you live with him? He's like, yeah, he's in my house, but I
Nothing
live.
wrong with that.
No, but check this out. She goes, oh yeah, and we live in a fucking single wide trailer. You know what I'm saying? And he thinks he's got a brand new truck and a brand new house. And in my mind, I'm like, I started to think, I'm like, well, he's about to die. How do I know? How do we know that this individual didn't? It's first of all, we're supposed to create our reality, right? How do I know that
Yeah.
this individual ain't gonna die more harmonious than somebody who's dying here, all perfectly sane and shit, and their life's all out of fucking control? But meanwhile, we look
Yeah.
at that person. I would never want to be in that position. But how do you know that that position is not the position of like the way that we're called heaven on earth? That person's already there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His physical person might maybe not here, but maybe he is here.
Already creating heaven is
Oh,
most. desired whatever in his own mind before he even gets there. He's creating where he's going to go.
Exactly. And there's some people who believe in Jesus so much that they say that they saw the light, they saw Jesus when they got there. And yeah, because when you're
Yeah,
there, you're already you're in the mental realm. That's why I said there's layers to like that process, in my opinion. I'm not saying that that's concrete fact, but we're having deaths here all the time. You know what I'm saying? If I would have had an argument with my girl where we broke up, I would have deaded that relationship. That would have been a physical death to some extent to that relationship. You're here in this realm. You have a relationship to life. Life is flowing to and through you, right? But what is your relationship to life? How do you treat life? How do you treat yourself first, right? Because life will treat you how you treat yourself first. Love, love others, but you got to love yourself first. It's got to exist in you first. So life is trying to express itself to and through you. Life wants you to be as fucking far out as possible. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of people are fearful of what others may think. That's why I don't. When I see you ranting, I'm like, man, not everybody could do that. Not everybody does that because everybody's in their fucking ego. And I guess you put your ego to the side and you even said, I don't care. I just fucking talk on camera and rant. Nobody fucking, maybe nobody likes to listen to that shit, but who gives a fuck, right? But you just do
yeah.
what you got to do. You get views, but again, it could just be for pure entertainment, but fuck, who cares? You know what I'm saying? The point of it is you're getting views. You know, you put your message out. It's for whoever wants to get it and use it as a tool, or it could be used as something where you'll attract more trolls. However it may be, you swim in those waters. And just like I said in my videos, I said, if you're going to play God, well, then you better be responsible for the baggage that comes with. Life will test you. It will start showing you. Like if somebody who wants to be a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
The universe may fucking present to you a situation where I got a fucking speeding ticket, I get a big ass bill, and then all of a sudden I'm complaining about that. I'm like, the universe, let's say if the universe was exterior to me, well, the universe may say, well, bitch, you want to be a millionaire, but look how you react to a fucking stupid ass speeding ticket, a bullshit ass bill you're getting. A millionaire doesn't complain about that shit, just pay the bill and get the fuck on moving, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with everything else in general. How do you respond and react to things outside of you? It just depends. How the way you respond and react and the words you use determines the path you take and the outcomes that may come. Again, when I talked about my girl and I got into the argument, I fucking manifested a bitch ass cop giving me a speeding ticket. I'm not gonna complain about it. I know I was aware in that moment. I brought this shit out to myself. Even the lights, the red and blue lights, those are red and blue pills I saw, like the fucking red and blue pill the Matrix gives you. Bro, I don't know. Everything just started flashing behind me, but it flashed in my mind the same way. I'm like, I'm doing this motherfucking shit. I looked at the cop, and then he was like, do you know why I pulled you over? I'm like, no, I'm never going to incriminate myself. He's like, well, you're going 80 on a 65. And I usually go 90, by the way. and then
Right.
I go, well, I'm on my way to, because I took a course. I told you in neuromuscular therapy. I'm like, well, I'm on my way to school. So he took my license, came back, gave me the ticket. He's like, I appreciate your, your cooperation throughout the whole thing. Because I was very courteous to him. And I was like, I mean, did you tell me how fast I was going? And he goes, yeah, you were going 80 on a 65. I was like, all right, well, have a good day. And I just kept it moving. But that's it. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I completely forgot about it afterwards. But
Mm.
I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm sorry I ran on. Sometimes I say I'm
Well,
long-winded,
no,
but
that's the point. You see, how you're thinking. Well, look, what just sprung to my mind is that you all of a sudden you was in the Neo sort of realm
ah,
because you asked yourself, "Am I taking the red or am I taking the blue? How am I going to deal with this?" Because
yes,
look,
there you go.
the beautiful thing about it is it's so symbolic. You've got red and blue flashing behind you. It's telling you, are you going to go with the Matrix? Or are you going to go with the dream? Which are you going to go with, mate? And so if you go with the Matrix, fuck, officer. Oh, I wasn't doing it. Oh, if I can't afford the, if I get another, oh, no, this, or do you just go with the dream thing? Do you take the blue pill? Which is it? Which is the Matrix and which is the dream? I
the
forgot.
the red one is
Um,
the woke one, and the blue one is the fucking dream like stayed in here in the Matrix.
Right, yes. So which one do you take? I mean, personally,
I decided to
so
take no drugs. I just decided to take no drugs. I just decided to just keep moving and leave the pills back there, and I stayed neutral, man.
the mentality, to take the mentality on, do you want to stay egoic or do you want to stay spirit? Now, for me, I would have looked at that and I would have gone, well, I don't care about speeding or fine or anything like that, because I've had loads of these in my life and they've never affected me anyway.
Yeah.
And I've always had the money to pay. I've always had copious amounts to pay, so the fine's never been a problem. And I went to court on one occasion, and on our license system, if we have more than 12 points, you get a ban. Now,
Yeah.
for every speeding ticket, you get 3 points, and if you're going over a certain limit, you'll get 6 points. I went to court one day with 22 points on my license, and I just pleaded hardship. I said, well, look, I'm in a job. It's high stress. I've always got to be here. I've got to be there. I've got to please my customers. I forget how fast I'm going. It's so easy. I was driving Jaguar at the time. It's so easy, when you're on the phone and this was before it was banned to be, on your phone, and all of a sudden, you're doing 50 and a 30. And the guy just said to me, okay, well, we won't take your license because we realized, your business is ruined. You will fine you like £150. And I was earning £2,000 a day.
Mhm.
So what am I going to bother about a parking ticket or fine? The only inconvenience to me was having to go to court.
Yeah. Me too.
So the thing is, if you always look at the positive side and think, well, I might meet somebody interesting along the way to the court. I might meet somebody that's going to have a business opportunity to me. Always think positive. Don't ever think that something is negative, because when you're in this spirit realm, there's nothing negative. There's only ever your interpretation of it.
Right.
And you see, my interpretation of life, I've always been the proverbial optimist. And so when somebody says to me, do you think the glass is half full or half empty? I'll go, it can never be half anything. It's always going to be full. If it's only half full of water, then it's going to be half full of air also. So the glass is full. I don't look at things and they say, oh, yeah, we got to choose. Why do you have to choose?
Mhm.
No, I'm not choosing. The glass is always full. I'm not even delving into this negative facet of loss, or I don't have, or hardship. I spend money like I'm a millionaire, and I'm just spending, spending, spending. Every day I've got something coming from Amazon or from eBay. And this week alone, I've spent £100 on feeding the birds and the squirrels and things like that. I just spend, 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 and I don't even consider how much money I've got in my account, because I know that I'm never going to go poor, because it's not my destiny to go poor.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I said in one of the videos. It says, the universe is catering. I get universal credits.
Yeah. And you know what? The money is energy. It's just like if it flows out, it comes right back in. I never spend money. I actually like to say I circulate money. You get what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. I sometimes spend it on things that I somebody would
Yeah,
be like
because
it's
when you say
pointless.
spent,
Uh,
it's the
it's
energy
not, it's
spent.
gone.
It's
It's
gone, isn't
gone.
it?
Yeah.
Your currency's never gone. It's just a flow. Yeah,
You
it's
know,
in the constant stream.
and I do uh give myself certain luxuries. You know what I'm saying, that somebody else may not care about. Like I spend not spent, but I circulated. I don't know. It just fucking came out. But
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
circulated about $2,000 on a lift kit and tires for my Jeep just because I fucking felt like it. I don't know why. It just,
yeah,
and I had my Jeep like that in pieces. I mean, just like basically regular for a while. But back in the day, I used to street race. And I used to, that's why I said I had a lot of speeding tickets back in the day, but I used to put a lot of money in my car. I always wanted to have a fly car. For some reason, a vehicle to me, and I had some fucking retard in your fucking comment saying that I'm in a car. They call it a fucking a car ego or some shit like that. I don't even know what the fuck that
right.
means. But the reason I'm in this place is because my house is. I have a 10-year-old and I have a bunch of animals, and it's very distractive. And when I do videos, I'm almost in channel. Like I'm very focused. And
Yeah,
sometimes even putting a thought in my mind kind of puts me off track, and I'm like, where the fuck was I going with that? So I really don't like to think too much, and I don't like to plan videos too much because then I won't even fucking do it. That's why when you and
yeah,
I spoke, they're like, "What do you want to talk about?" I'm like, "I don't fucking know. Let's just start fucking talking." And
yeah.
look, we've
Oh,
we've done that 3 times, and we've done 3 hour videos, and we don't fucking plan shit. We just talk, right? And we
yeah,
could talk for
yeah,
6 hours, I think, if we wanted to. But that's
yeah,
because there's good chemistry, there's harmony, there's good. And even if it was, let's say if we were discussing, but we don't see eye to eye. I find these as perfect opportunities to sharpen the blade. Like, when
Yeah.
you're in an octagon and you're sparring with somebody, what are you doing? You're getting better, but you're not enemies with that person. Or you can look at it one or two ways. I can go in an octagon and I can be a professional mixed martial artist, but you got to have the spirit of a true martial artist where there's never bad blood. You're always going to shake hands at the end, even though it appeared you were trying to take each other's head off. Now, that's true love because it was basically coming out of love. There's trash talking, but then now you could be in a street fight where there's bad blood and you really are trying to take the person's head off, but you're not going to shake hands at the end. You got an enemy for life, right? There's a big difference.
Mhm.
So when you debate or when you like, I don't like debating where it's not rooted out of love. I don't really get nothing out of that. The way I like to look at it is that I go into with somebody like you and it helps. The mind is a fucking muscle. It could be used against you. Like the mind could fucking play tricks on you and start going against you, or it could be used for your reality to get better. That's where I was going to ask you what the point of the thinking man is. Like the thinking for me, for example, is very useful in the sense where if you're in a fucked up situation, I mean, shit, I could fucking decide to get out of it, right? That's you using your mind. Or if you're not using your mind, somebody else is using it for you, and you're no different than an animal who's got to be in a place and it's got no choice. Let's say if I got my cat in the house, but it desperately wants to go out, but I keep it indoors, it's got no choice but to stay indoors because I'm in control of it. So I look at the body. Once you realize that you're not that cat, but you're a person who truly has domain over the planet, and domain is basically house, then you realize that all these things, even the animals, I'm observing these cats. A lot of these cats, everything that, like you got these squirrels, I watched those videos, they're very interesting, but you're observing your animal in real time. That's why you never seen these people say the warrior spirit, you embody the warrior animal. What animal spirit do you have? Like, what is that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Some people just be like, oh, they're egotistical and they want to be a certain animal. Every animal's in you. It's just you use these animals and it comes up in a way where you truly have. You see, the animals have a technology that you don't have. Birds can fly. A bird can look at you and be like, look at this stupid human who's got to be grounded on the ground like a fucking idiot. Or a fish can be like, look how I swim, but a person can't swim like it. Or a cat can climb a tree, it's so agile. A monkey, look at all these animals that have got so much potential over things that we can do, but we got something just basically intelligence. You get what I'm saying? Like human
Yeah.
intelligence.
We,
So,
we, we've got very limited prowess in everything
right.
compared to animals.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like all these animals, once you embody it, right, you're basically coming up not in the animalistic way, but the human animal is basically utilizing this energy to prowess through reality in the way that it can do, basically. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be in business, whether it be in spirituality, whatever it may be. Again, when you have a passion, you will do it to the best of your abilities. Like I became passionate about this getting to know myself type of thing that I immersed myself into it. I just it couldn't get out of my mind. But I did it. It's not that it was tormenting me. I wanted it there, and I kept wanting to know more, and know more, and know more. You know what I'm saying? But then again, it comes to a point where when you feel full, right? You gotta extract nutrients and observe if you got belief systems. These belief systems are no different than you not being able to take a shit. If you're eating a lot of food and you can't shit that shit out, I mean, you're gonna trip yourself into a pretty bad situation, right? So it's the same thing with the mind, which is a brain, and then, I mean the mind is everything. You know what I'm saying? I'll just say up here, by that's just how we talk, but. Your stomach's a brain too. You know what I'm saying? Your heart's a brain. Your lower extremities
This
is a
cell
brain.
in your body's the brain.
The entire body is the brain, absolutely. And when it works as one unit, what do we call that? A universe. You're one verse, right? All
Yeah.
the organs are firing in harmony, and they're all working. You get what I'm
And
saying?
you see, the thing about it is this body, the average body that lives to be like 70 years old, let's say, they don't have to think about a single thing about the operation. The operation through rain and shine and snow and stress and all these different things we put the body through. The body is fluctuating with its homeostasis. It's
Yeah,
sending nutrients and chemicals, and then it's attacking this and it's repairing that. All this genius going on, and we think that because we've got a brain we're intelligent.
yeah,
It's the pea brain sitting on top of the cosmos,
yeah,
basically. This is the cosmos. This billions of years to create a genius thing in the fucking universe, by all accounts, and yet we've got this stupid little ego with an IQ of about 80. It's
You've ever
ridiculous,
seen the
and we
picture
think
of
that
that?
this is it.
You've ever seen the picture of
Sorry.
that? You've ever seen the picture of that iceberg that sticks out on top of the water, and then you got that big ass boulder underneath. I feel like we're looking
Yep.
at our reality exactly like this. Like we got the dome, we got that little rock sticking up on top, but then the bigger part of it is
Yeah.
just that big boulder on the bottom, and that's just
Yeah.
basically how I look at everything. Huh?
That's a good analogy because the top part is out in the world, so to speak,
Yeah,
and it's seeing all what's going on. Whereas the bottom part's like our unconscious. It's the mass of the intelligence, and it really knows what's going
that's
on.
right.
It's only a little titchy bit that thinks it knows what's going on, which sticking out the top. But
Like conscious and then subconscious. But then that unconscious, once that unconscious wakes up, it realizes the programs and the consciousness, because the consciousness is just a small part. That's why they say we can only see a certain percent of like 0.1 of the color spectrum, right? But that's
yeah.
how I can look at it, how we're all shards. But if we all integrate, or you realize and take the world in, that's when you start to open your perception up. You get what I'm saying? Not to just be in this container and think you know it all, right? It's just basically like right now I'm allowing you into my space, and I'm able to expand my consciousness. It's just getting different points of views. You're born in a certain space and time, a specific date and time of birth, whatever. I look at that as perceptions. Maybe if I step on your, like, let me get in your shoes, maybe I can see where you're looking at things from. Maybe I can, it's just different perspectives and perceptions of life.
Yeah. So when we're speaking about, oh, I don't want to step on your toes, or I'm not attacking you in the look. We're both fighters, and so whenever I would fight, and I know it's the same with you,
Mhm.
um, there's no bad blood between anybody that's gonna kick our ass, because whoever kicks our ass has done us a big favor
Oh
on
fuck
that
yeah,
day,
that's right.
because it's kept us grounded, it's sent us back to the drawing board. We know we've got to sharpen the tools up, because we've got to make absolutely sure that that doesn't happen again,
Yeah,
because we're in the game of fighting, and fighting is about at least being equal, if not winning. And so anytime anybody that spars with me in this sort of way, then it's a good thing. And I'm always inviting it. When I joust with people
yeah,
throughout the years, I've jousted with everybody. I've called everybody under the sun, rattling all their cages to see what comes back. And then when people start, oh, you're this and you're that, I look at that and I go, is there any truth in any of that? And I go, there's a bit of truth in this. That's projection. That's just he'd hope it's that. There is truth in this and there's truth in that. And I look at myself and I go, okay, do I want to change anything? And I go, no. Why don't you want to change anything? Because you're upsetting people, and I'm not upsetting people. People are upsetting themselves. I'm giving them an opportunity to be upset.
mhm,
I'm doing what we would do if we fought. I'm giving you an opportunity to brush up on your skills,
yeah,
because your kicks ain't fast enough.
yeah,
Right? So if I kick you before you can kick me, you've got to know that your kicks are too slow.
yeah.
And that's what I'm doing with
I
people.
like I
But
like
this,
I like that analogy though, and the reason I see it like that is because again, like if I'm gonna spar with somebody, um, it's like I look at it like you could hurt my ego, right? But an ego death is never a fucking bad thing. You get what I'm saying? Sometimes, and the thing is, you're putting yourself vulnerable. You're out there, right? So if I
yeah,
go and somebody smashes me, I could go one or two ways. I can just stay down and fucking dwell on that, or I can just pick myself up. That's why you see the point of humans is that a man could fall, but the point is to get back up, and that's why it's separated like angels and demons. Angels were never meant to fall, and demons are never meant to rise. They're in their positions. Man is stands, but he falls. But the point is to get back up. You get what I'm saying? You don't stay broken in that
yeah.
in that space. You get what I'm saying? That's why I
So
look at that analogy as like ego. You're using the ego, but you're making it stronger at the same time. But
yeah,
as not as a weapon, but more as a tool to keep yourself sharp and sharpen others. You know.
the ego is the operating system that allows you to do all these things.
Mhm,
And so I was trained in Kyokushin
mhm.
karate, which is Japanese. It's the full contact karate. It's renowned for being the strongest karate in the world. Uh, Praktika or karateka.
Mhm.
They because it's Japanese, it's all about respect. It's all about discipline.
Yeah.
And in these clubs all around Europe, which take on the franchise from Japan, they operate under the same system. As soon as you enter into the dojo, you don't speak anymore. You
Yeah.
just listen to the instruction and you do exactly what the instructor tells you. And this is for an hour and a half. And you're all standing in a row. You've got your gis on, and they're all washed and they're all ironed, and you've got all the respect. And then when you spar with your partner, if you kick him down or you something like this, you got to make sure he's okay. You help him up, and then you give him something. You almost had me at the beginning. You give him something back. You don't want to leave him feeling humiliated. It's
Yeah.
not about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's about the respect. You did really well. Your good spirit and all that sort of thing. And so that's how I was taught as a fighter, and no ego just didn't come into it.
Yeah. Definitely.
What came into it is if I got a kick in, then I was going to give myself another kick in, because I was going to be training at home every hour that's possible and available to me. I built in my garage like a wooden man. They use this martial arts stuff, and I had a small pad like this, a very thin one on the wall, and I had all this sort of blocking stuff, and I had legs to do all the kicking, and I had the speedball, on the bungee, wah, 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 blah, 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 blah. And then I had the punch bag and all that sort of thing. So I'd be working on all that incessantly. I'd be out with my punch bag hanging in the tree all throughout the year. And I remember when I was training, I was in the British full contact karate team representing my country. And so I had to make sure I was absolutely ready for it. And I would train bare knuckles on this solid bag out at, -3 or 5 when it's snowing and it's frosting. And the neighbors would be looking out their windows at me thinking, I fucking lost the plot, but no, I was just dedicated. And I always worked on the premise that every time I spend an hour out in the freezing cold, that's an hour over and above my competitors
Right.
going to be doing it like I am.
Yeah.
I really was like David.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fucking.
I-
I was focused.
There are a lot of like, man, because I'm the same way.
Mhm.
I was doing different parties when I was younger that I had to make sure I was always number one though, and I sometimes trash talking, and that's why I say sometimes just trash talking, getting in somebody's head is super efficient,
Oh,
and
Ali, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, but that's the whole thing. Even though you trash talk, you can always. That's why I love MMA combat sports, right? You get into somebody's head, you can see the art of mental warfare because that's what we're in
Yes,
every day.
I used to do it.
Yeah, we're every day. I mean, we're fighting. We're in the art of mental warfare every day. That's why they say the
Yeah,
mind is all, the universe is mental. But you can,
psychological warfare.
yeah. But when you're observing this, as far as like two athletes, and you could see when one breaks. And the funny thing is, through the face-off, you know what's funny? Your heart. I always said the heart's a projection of your reality. Your heart emits an energy that's basically. I think from what I heard is as far as like 8 feet far out. When they do a face-off, right? You can have a bigger guy, and I've had this before. I've always had this like strong energy. I got a lot of vitality, and I measure that through my sexuality and whatnot. But I know that there's guys that were bigger than me, and for some reason I saw them breaking, and I could see this through the facial muscles. There's a lot of because look, the reason I was so efficient as a manager is because I am very good at marketing, but I'm also very good when I'm selling. I read body language a lot. And when it came down to some like breaking somebody, it's just my presence, the energy, and that's why I love face-offs. That face-off, one will break. You have the whole story built up, which is the trash talking, and we all do that. We develop stories for ourselves. We think we're something based on the stories we hold in our mind. But when you got that face-off, you're facing yourself. You get what I'm saying? And that person, if that is a mirror of you. But so much depth to that once you can see you go into the octagon, the smaller guy will whoop this guy's ass. You could see the lack of confidence in that bigger fighter just by that face off of the trash talking. The guy has real estate in his head all of a sudden. There's a lot of energy that was read there. You get what I'm saying? And I'm very, very big on that. And I see that in certain people, how they express themselves, how they speak, the power in their voice, everything is just you project, you emitting something, you're emitting frequency, energy, and you feel somebody's vibes. That's where Tesla said, if you want to know the keys to the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. But if you're confident and you built and develop that strength within you, let's call it the ego. There's nothing wrong with the ego, man. I mean, how could you know what the taste of chocolate is like, or the beauty of an orgasm, if you don't have a fucking ego, man? You know what I'm saying? It could be used as a
Oh,
weapon.
look,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, my ego has took me around the world. It's been responsible for
Yeah,
every single
yeah,
thing I've achieved. You
yeah.
know, the operating system, it's a wonderful thing. And if you have an operating system which is has minimal fear, then that enables you to experience a whole lot more
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I'm doing all this fungi foraging and cooking all this stuff. And, lots of my viewers go, oh, yeah, well, you're living up to your name, awake and brave. I would never dare do that. And I'm like, well, I'm not like just taking pot luck with this stuff, you know. I do it because I'm confident in my intelligence, my thorough investigation, and being absolutely sure before I eat this stuff, and
Hmm.
checking against all the other poisonous ones that I'm not going to leave my daughter without a father, you know. And so by the time, so what are people doing? What the people are doing when they say, I would never do that, they're saying that I could never depend on my intelligence. I could never depend on my own mind, that I wouldn't kill myself because I'm obviously too stupid. And so the reason why I eat these fungi is because I have to be absolutely sure.
Yeah.
So I've got to make sure that I'm very, very thorough, and I watch videos, and I've got all these books. I inspect them in every single which way, and if I've got any doubt, then I won't touch them. I'll only touch them, when I'm confident. But there's a thing that happens in the brain, even when you're absolutely sure, there's still a doubt in your mind that you're eating a poisonous mushroom, because that's the thing that's been conditioned into us forever.
Yeah.
And it may even be a natural endowment that we're always going to be thinking about this. You see, we've not with wild fungi, we haven't grown up and accustomed ourselves to picking the stuff off the supermarket shelf. Because when we do that, we've grown with that and we're absolutely accustomed to it. But when we're eating new stuff, then all of a sudden the brain's going, do you know what you're doing here? Have you checked that? Because there are fucking ramifications, this, that, and the other, and there's all this sort of stuff. But every time I eat one of these mushrooms, and I have to do a little bit of a meditation before, because I have to allay that innate egoic doubt, the evolutionary doubt. I have to put that aside and override with my conscious intelligence. And so that's a very important
Yeah.
thing. And that's what the vast majority of people can't do.
Yeah.
And so I just say, well, I mean, when you look into the psychology of why you can't do it, then ask yourself what your fear prevents, what else it prevents you from doing in your life. Oh, I can never climb a mountain because what if I broke my ankle, or what if I did this, or what if I did that? If you were going to climb a mountain with that mindset, you would create that shit. And in the book, I write about the time I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and I created my worst nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was very, very powerful. I absolutely created that because I wanted it to be the absolute hardest and most horrendous thing I've ever done in my life, because I was tired of traveling all around the world. I just wanted to retire and hang up my hiking boots and just chill like I am now. But I couldn't do that without going out with one last fight, with one big one,
Yeah.
you know. And so then I did it. And then that part whereby I brought this altitude sickness and the energy drain on me to such an extent I thought I was going to die. And then I turned off my conscious egoic mind, and I climbed for the last 3.5 hours just on spirit.
Hmm.
I wasn't aware for 3.5 hours. That I still don't remember to this day. I said to myself, the only way I'm going to get to the top of this fucking mountain is if I don't remember a single
Right.
fucking thing about it.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm just going to be dead here and now. And so this is the power of the mind.
Yep.
And this is why I'm so really, really assertive about my convictions, because I've tried all this stuff.
Yeah.
When I've had Jesus talk to me, God talk to me, I've been to hell and I've had angels, in the most clearest and brightest of technical you can ever imagine. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
There's something going on. So something I want to ask you
Mhm.
in relation to something else, which is really powerful. It's very difficult to comprehend, but the Tao Te Ching.
Um, what is that?
Familiar with that? The Tao
I've
Te
heard of it,
Ching.
but I never dove too deep into that.
Right. So when people about talk about the Tao, it's spelt Tao,
Mhm. Aaron,
and it basically yeah,
before we change topic, I want to add something in for the fungi topic.
yeah,
There was a realization I had. We'll get into that now. I don't want to cut you off. I just want to make sure I put this in there. But I had a realization about something as I'm gardening, and I love gardening for this reason because I feel like it, it, it may seem like something's talking to me, but it's just coming as a realization, and that's how you know that the environment basically is you because it comes through realizations. That's how you know it's true and not something you think is true. You get what I'm saying? But when it comes to, I've heard certain shamans who were preparing concoctions, right? And there was reporters that would ask him, well, how do you know how to make this blend? And they said something very interesting. They said that the plants told us. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
And that's very
yeah,
interesting. Now, I also heard uh, Bruce Lipton talk about this, where there was some monks or yogis, I forgot what they were, but they worked themselves up to a state of ecstasy, and they were taking like poisons, but it was not killing them. But that's true, like mind over matter. If we want to get into epigenetics, like you control basically everything above that. But here's the realization I had as I was gardening. There's certain, like I feel like nothing should kill you in nature. Nothing should kill you. The reason that it does is only how we conditioned our body, like you just mentioned, based on like programming and what we believe and whatnot. But there's something too chemically where this is a scientific fact. If you eat certain mushrooms, if you drink alcohol, it's going to make you really, really sick. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But now here's the thing, everybody has a lot of alcohol and ammonias in their body from all the fucking shit they eat. Sometimes it could be processed sugars that convert to ammonia in the system, too much animal protein converts to like nitrogenous waste. Your body technically, like if you, let's say, I heard this one doctor say that a guy ate oatmeal and then immediately ate watermelons afterwards, and he went and drove and got a breathalyzer test, and he was arrested because they said he was intoxicated, but he never took a drink. This goes to
wow,
prove that we create all these ammonia and alcohols within us, and the thing is that we've distorted our microbiome. And it's kind of like E. coli and whatnot. When you look at the E. coli universe, it's very closely equated to our physical universe. When you look at this on a bacterial level, I'll send you a link
yeah,
to that. I think you're going to find that really, really interesting. But I feel like we've structured our microbiome to a way where we can only eat the shit that's like pasteurized and overheated and cleansed, because it's like if you drink milk all the time and then you stop drinking milk for a while, you become lactose intolerant. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So we've disconnected ourselves from nature so much from the information that we can gather from nature, just because we've lost even touching the soil. We don't want to get dirt under our nails, or we don't want to put our feet in the soil. We've disconnected to the point that we no longer have a harmonious chemistry with nature, that if we take certain mushrooms, it's going to fucking kill us. You get what I'm saying? Where it shouldn't even be like that. Even viruses. We're supposed to process viruses. We have every single virus known to man already within us. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
The only reason a virus would kill you is if your immune system's compromised from the shit you've been doing already to begin with. Because
yes,
viruses are responsible for the evolution of your species, for even being here.
yeah,
The matter of fact, your body consists of nothing but viruses, bacteria, and cells with two major fluids. That's all you are. But the
yeah,
reason it can't process it is because it can't, no, it can't defend itself against it. Because that's why they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. If you can't beat that virus, it kills you. You know what I'm saying? Which death
mhm.
is another topic. We talked about animals and whatnot. I actually want to talk about that, but I want you to get into the thought. I didn't want to cut you off, but those are realizations I've had with the fungi world. You get what I'm saying? It's just, I find it so
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
how we
you
can't
see,
ingest certain things.
if we were still eating from the earth, then we would have all these microbes and viruses
That's right.
within our whole body. But because we've become estranged from these now, and we're only being fed clinically processed and cleansed stuff, and it seems there's a conspiracy to wipe off
Mhm.
the humans from the face of the earth, because the more they're genetically modifying, the more they are telling us not to eat any bacteria, always be clean, 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 beat, bleach, and
Right.
disinfect. Nonsense, absolutely nonsense. If you go to a real health specialist, they'll tell you to eat a quarter teaspoon of soil every day.
Yeah.
Go into your garden in a nice fertile region and take a quarter of a teaspoon of soil with all those microbes in, and then you'll have the universe within inside you.
Yeah.
As soon as you start preventing yourself from doing that, then your body forgets about it. It stops creating the antibodies, and it doesn't recognize the viruses when they
That's
come
right.
in, and it doesn't have the defenses to defend them.
Yeah.
And so that's what's happening with the human
I,
body.
I grew a
Um,
shitload of blackberries, man. A lot of blackberries, and some of them had. I didn't even notice I was eating them at one point, but then I opened them up. There's like a little worm in them when they're overripe, and I was like,
right.
"Yo, shit! I've been eating fucking worms, and I didn't even notice it." But I mean, shit,
Yeah,
nothing
I
happened to
mean,
me, man.
I was picking blackberries one day, and this young guy, about 30 years old, was walking, and his little daughter, about 7 years old, was walking ahead of him. And she stopped and she asked me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm picking these blackberries." I said, "Do you want one?" And he went, "No." And the girl says, "Daddy, why?" And he said, "A bird might have pissed on it. A bird might have pissed on a blackberry."
First of all, if a bird pisses on it, you're gonna see shit. They shit and piss at the same time.
Exactly. I did make a video about it, and I said, well, first and foremost, birds don't piss. They shit and piss at the same time,
Yeah,
and you'd see it then because it'd be white. But when I pick them, all this food, I'm not even looking if there's any maggots in it or bugs on it.
oh
And
yeah,
when I'm cooking my mushrooms, I'm like, I'll flick off the big ones, but the small ones, they're cool. Maggots,
yeah,
I'm cool with those. And all this because what the hell, we can't. I don't want to be afraid, and I don't want to detach myself from that level of nature.
yeah,
Speaking of which, then move on to the Tao now, because
yeah.
the Tao, it means the way. And there's a guy called Lao Tzu, who was Chinese, who was a spiritualist, a philosopher. 800 BC, I think it was, something like that. And he wrote this book, and it's got I think it's 82 verses, and basically it's speaking about the way of nature. It cannot be defined, it cannot be fully articulated. If you profess you know it, you do not know it. If you profess you have it, you don't have it, and all this sort of thing. So it's the mystery of the cosmos.
Mhm.
And what he actually says is that when we become absolutely natural, we are going to be the healthiest, the happiest, and the most productive. Now, if we take ourselves back in imagination, let's say 500 years, when we were working on the land and we was involved with the land, and everything was about our connection with the land. We knew everything about the land, and we blessed the sun, we worshipped the sun, we loved the rain, the clouds. Everything was amazing to us because it was our world. We lived by candlelight, or something similar to that, and we went to bed at dark and we rose at light, and all sorts of things. We live with this beautiful circadian rhythm, and when we were living like that, of course, we were the perfect human being. We were, in actual fact, in the Garden of Eden.
Mhm.
And we were in the Garden of Eden, not only for the health, natural aspects, but for the mind aspects, because we had nothing to think about other than what was just everyday stuff. It was everyday stuff which we could do with our eyes closed. It was ploughing the fields, it's planting the crops, it's reaping, preparing. All this stuff, we did it without an egoic mind. And so, what I said in the book was that the whole thing about the Garden of Eden and man's downfall when we ate from the forbidden tree is because then we created our ego. Our ego came on board, and the ego fucks everything up. So the Tao is saying that just get involved with nature. Don't get busy in your mind about anything. else that's going to be taxing your mind and taking you out of the present moment. That's where the secret is. And so I look at the Tao and I go, well, the Tao is given the same message as the Garden of Eden. You see, what I wrote about the Garden of Eden in that book, I've never read anything which it states my hypothesis on that the Garden of Eden is the analogy for when our ego came on board. Because Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, they didn't know anything. They didn't know even that they were naked. So what's that saying? They never had a conscious mind which was judging. They never had judgment. They never had ego. When they ate from the tree of fruit of good and evil or knowledge, then all of a sudden, oh, aghast, they were naked and they was ashamed. So shame came about instantly, recognition of themselves, the ego came on. It's the ego which is evil, the ego which is Satan, and it's the ignorance which is God.
Mhm.
And that's why God wanted to keep them ignorant, because he knew that, the metaphor, that that's the best possible human state. So what I'm saying is that that state in Eden is exactly the same as the Tao.
Yeah.
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 And so if you
Um,
tell this to a Christian, of course, they'll want to hang you or stone you.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what you got, and I don't. That's why you can't have these conversations with everybody, man, because it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's a waste of energy. Most of the time, it's just talking to thin air. So it's just, sometimes I just not say anything to
So
them.
when you look at that, you see, if we um, if we decipher what those books said um, from a human psychological way, because what I'm saying is that those books, they were the first cognitive behavioral therapy. They were basic human psychology for the masses. I mean, the Ten Commandments. Don't try and covert your neighbour's ox, because the chances are he'll cut your fucking head off. Don't try and commit adultery, because in those days everybody kill you for anything. They just fucking kill you. And so it's kind of like, to keep the deaths down, don't try and shag your missus's wife, and don't be stealing from your neighbor. And for God's sake, don't start judging anybody, because it'll get out of hand and he'll come round with an axe and all this sort of stuff. So elementary. For the savage human being. It's just an introduction of the
Mhm.
first psychology. And I'm like, come on, people. I mean, even people like Peter Hitchens, who was a devout atheist, and Richard Dawkins, and oh God, there's a dozen others. I've watched these debates, and they just get into the stupid, superficial rubbish of like, well, if there was a god, then why would he create a wasp which would lay an egg into a spider which would eat it alive? And I'm like, well, is that all you've got to say in contestation of the Bible and God? Oh, come on. And you're supposed to be intelligent. Stephen Fry is one of these guys. He's a British author and actor and all that. And they go on stage and they get paid thousands. And I'm like, somebody invite me. One day, when I'm long dead, you'll read my book and you'll go, where is this guy? He knew where it was fucking coming down. And I'm aghast at why people just they can't see it. And that's why the more I speak about this, the more my viewers have less and less to say, because they're in a different world. They're in a different cosmos. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm like this. I don't know why I can see everything as clear as
Yeah,
day.
it's
You know,
very intimidating to some people. You know what I'm saying? Like either they don't get it, they're intimidated and whatnot. Because I mean, I've been on that boat too. You know what I'm saying? It's just if nobody says anything, I mean, shit. I guess it's either nothing to add or just spectating. But it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't give a shit, to be honest with you. I always say my videos are journals. I even referred back. Like remember I was telling you, you were talking about the DMT. It sparked me to go back in my library, and I happened to make a video on psychedelics 4 years ago. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which I really want you to watch and tell me what you think of it. But
Yeah,
um,
will do. I watched the 3 videos that you've got on your channel.
mhm.
I've got them somewhere on my hard drives, but I would never be able to find them without looking at every single one of them. But I listened to those and I thought, wow, what great conversations. Two
The
human
old ones,
beings. The old ones, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the oldest one was
They're on
5
my
years
channel.
ago. Yeah, I know. I've
Yeah,
watched them. That's what
yeah.
I'm just saying. I
Oh, okay,
watched them on
okay.
your channel,
Yeah.
and I watched some of your videos,
Mhm.
and so I looked at those and I thought, yeah, how rare is that?
Yeah,
You know, two shit kickers. We've
yeah.
not got PhDs. We've not written any fucking books. We're
That's right.
not making movies. We're just two shit kickers.
Yeah,
With little channels that nobody will never get more than 1,000 fucking subscribers.
yeah,
For as long as we live, and yet we are speaking about the nature of the cosmos.
yeah.
At such a profound level, which 99% of the people just don't comprehend.
No, and sometimes and you know what? And well, this doesn't frustrate me necessarily, but you can tell what the state of the world is just by where the traffic is at. So, like when you see these big channels and you hear what they're saying, and sometimes I'm like, are they just talking to fucking like just make content, or at what point do they not realize that a lot of it is project, or people at least, do they not realize that the person's projecting? There's a person that speaks. I don't want to mention names, but they're just fucking spilling their fucking life and it's just the complaining. You know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah,
really no
yeah,
substance. I mean, and then there's people, everybody's in so much trauma that they relate to that. And that's why the traffic goes there. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that person has high credibility. Sometimes you find those gems in the small channels, and the state of humanity isn't that small percentage. That's the whole thing. And if you get that
yeah,
large percentage to listen to that information from the smaller channels, they may not even know what the fuck you're talking about. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's why look, the ruling families of this planet are small fucking small families, bro. You get what I'm saying? And the amount of fucking dumb people are the big ones. So think about it. The ones ruling the world are a small amount, but all the power is there. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
sometimes I say like the smaller channels are where all the richness is at times. You know what I'm saying? Depending on the individual, depends for
yeah.
interpretation. But there's big channels sometimes I'm listening and I'm like, all that here is complaining, a bunch of empty shit. Like it's just like I look at it like empty calories, like you're eating junk food. You know what I'm saying? The person just feels good when they're listening to certain lingos and words, and
Absolutely.
there's really no
Yeah.
substance to it. It's just junk food.
No. Are you familiar with Noah Harari or Yuval Noah Harari or something like this? He's a Jewish author. He wrote *Sapiens*.
Yeah.
And he's wrote 2 other books. And he speaks about how we're just going to be absolutely overrun with AI.
Hmm.
And he's very intelligent. But then you just get people just tossing him off, just dissing him and just disrespecting him. And I'm like, my advice would be to listen to this guy because, as far as I can see, he knows exactly where the world's going. He ain't no stupid guy,
Hmm.
you know. But this is it. And there's one guy, Robert Greene. He wrote 48 Rules of Power. It became a million bestseller because it became big with the rappers. And Richard Green went on to write another book with 50 Cent. Because 50 Cent read Green's book, Robert Green's, and because he said it was exactly the trouble he was having with the hierarchical powers and the manipulation in the music business. And so then he contacted Robert Greene, and they became friends, and then they wrote a book. And so Robert Greene, now a wealthy author and attributed with great intelligence, the videos I'm watching of him, he's saying things like this. Look, if people try to manipulate you, then just say no. You can just say no. And if you say no, then they can't have that power over you. And I'm like, am I fucking hearing this? Really? You've got to tell people that you can actually say no. But then when I think about that, it's not such a stupid thing. But he's really realizing the state of the fucking idiot at this moment in time, that he does have to appeal to them. You can actually say fucking no,
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking muppet. But the point is, from the cradle to the grave, Ziggy, they're indoctrinated into being subservient, um, uh, law abiding, and rule following, agreeable people. You know, the last thing anybody wants to do is have a confrontation with anybody. God forbid anybody who want to assert their rights or their opinion, and that's what's come over the world. And so I'm like, my God, that is it. That's the height of it. Jordan Peterson, you know, in one of his books, you know, the greatest and most recited of comments is like, stand up with a straight back and clean up your fucking room. That's his message to young men. And it stems from one of his clients that was about 30 years old, still living with his mother. His father had gone, so he never had a father figure. And he wouldn't even clean his room up. His room was an absolute mess, and he was depressed. And his mother was reasonably wealthy, so paid for him to go and see Peterson. And then Peterson was looking into how he lived his life. And Peterson used to give him a task of, first thing, just tidy up your sock drawer. And if you can't manage the whole sock drawer, tidy up half of your sock drawer. And so then when the guy would come next week, Peter would go, how did you get along with the sock drawer? I did 3 and I couldn't do any more. And he'd say, well, okay, that's a start. And now Peterson speaks about this. It's a start. We've got to start somewhere and we build from that. And I'm like, fuck, is that what the fucking world's
Hmm.
come to? Tidy up your sock drawer, cunt.
Yeah.
You know, bring back national service. You know, let's make men of people. You know, all that sort of thing. The world is seriously, you know, just falling apart before our very eyes.
Yeah.
And then another thing now, Robert Greene, he's writing another book now. And what happened is, in recent times, is he suffered a stroke. He used to do mountaineering and cycling and a little bit of running and quite a lot of walking. But now the stroke has left him housebound. And now he sits at his window looking out, watching people walk their dogs. As he's writing his book, and his new book is about how people don't appreciate what they've got. So he's writing it now from an invalid's perspective. And he's crying inside that people walking the dogs outside are not appreciating every step that they take. Because if you only knew what that would feel like to have it taken away from you, like I feel, I can't walk anymore, I can't climb anymore, I can't walk my dog anymore, and you don't appreciate it. And that's how it's gone. He's gone almost psychotic. And I'm like, well, you're never going to get through to these motherfuckers appreciating little things like walking the dog or getting out of bed in the morning until they've been stricken with fucking cancer or something. And it takes that to realize, to shake their fucking numbskulls.
Yeah.
Fuck, man.
You you spoke on artificial intelligence, right? Um,
Yeah.
do you think our bodies are a form of artificial intelligence?
Well, I mean, it depends what perspective you look at this from. Because if we look at it from the simulation, then, you know, everything is artificial. And it's very feasible. You know, when, again, our top scientists tell us that the universe is written in binary and computers work in binary, well, fuck me. The universe is a computer, then, isn't it? And when the quantum physicists tell us that there's no matter here, in any case, well, fucking hell, you
Mhm.
know, it seems a no-brainer to me.
Right.
I'm perfectly happy. I don't give a fuck what any of it is, because I've just got this intuitive knowledge that I am it, you know, and this is just a tiny little facet
Well, I
of
mean,
what I am.
I ask this because you know how our body, for example, like when we look at death, just death. Death basically is just a transition, like uh, into a different form, right? But what's keeping our bodies going, right? So like we hear that our cells hold about 1.3 volts of electricity, right? Um, but then that doesn't seem like a lot, but comparing everything, you know what I'm saying? That's a lot of current if we have trillions of cells. But death in a way, when you separate, like you know how somebody knocks you out, but let's say just life overall, where it's no longer able to flow through you, if we're in a mathematical or an electrical universe, because this is the realm of light, we're technically in dark, we light up the reality, right? But if your body is no longer able to house that current, then that's what happens in death. Because your body, for me, obviously, the end of the world happened. For you, no, because you continue on. But observing my body, you still observe all those proteins intact. You get what I'm saying? It's just lifeless. The only thing that's happening there is that the proteins are no longer receiving a signal for them to change shape and form, and obviously keep the body alive. It's like the
Well,
lights were cut off.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you see, all of these these questions and ways of looking at something. What I have to do, I keep thinking about I'm going to have to, buy a whiteboard, and I can speak and illustrate at the same time. Now, when you ask me that, I'm like, well, what I've got to do is I have to come back from being the universe,
Well,
and I have to come back.
there's a reason why I asked this, because where I was
No,
going to
no.
get to with this. Well, I'm gonna
Yeah, but
let
what
me
I say,
because I want you to answer it, but I want you to answer it with this last point I got. The reason I
okay,
mentioned this and hold that thought is because, like, there's accounts where people say that it's possible to transfer your consciousness onto an AI program when you're dead, right? But then we start to
right,
look at, uh, let's say, a form of the what does the robot, because they're still trying to perfect a robot trying to run like a human. That's how elaborate the human body is. That's how complex it is. But they can't get a robot to run properly or run up the steps properly the same way that a human body operates in its perfection. But this is why I say that we're sort of de-evolving, thinking that we can do something like that, even though it seems so technologically involved, right? But you're getting into a robot doesn't have the complex emotions that a human has. So if that's possible, let's say, where they can transfer the consciousness onto an AI program, where was the consciousness at, or how could you even house that to begin with? Right upon death. That's what I'm saying. Are you grasping like a sort of essence and putting it in some type of container? You get what I'm trying to say? This is why when I think of something like this, as far as like our body being artificial intelligence, is because we have automatic functions that we're not in control of. I mean, we're aware things are happening like digestion, heartbeat,
right.
but the body doesn't know the difference between a real or fake experience. But when we become aware that we have control, like we could take manual override like a plane, it's on autopilot, but then you take the wheel and whatnot in the cockpit. All these little questions that you can ask to kind of grasp into just the electrical nature of everything. But I'll let you go in because I don't want to take too long. I don't want you to lose that thought.
Rene Descartes, philosopher of 1600s, he wrote a book called Meditations, and I put an excerpt of that book in my
I
book.
saw.
And what he did was he wanted to know what was real about the human being.
Mhm.
And because he had a suspicion that it was all fake and none of it would stand up to scrutiny. And so what he did was he looked at every single one of his senses and he considered that they were all fallible. And the only thing in the end that he considered was real in this experience was the fact that something was thinking. Now, again, the only thing he couldn't dispute was consciousness. Because we can never dispute that, because even when we're sleeping, we're still conscious. We
Yeah.
call it unconscious because the ego goes to sleep. The body doesn't go sleep. The body's still working 24/7.
Right.
It never has a single moment lapse of consciousness. And so, what I say when you ask questions like that, and you say, well, what about this? And they're doing this to the robot. And what about we're electric and they're electric? I go, well, look, what about the everything's a simulation? And there is no conscious human beings. It's just a simulation. It's just a dream. We can do anything. And
Mhm.
that's why when people say, do you think computers will ever be sentient? Well, everything's sentient.
Everything's already
It- it-
alive.
Everything's already alive. Everything's conscious. We are in consciousness. And so all we have to do is to flip something in our minds, which then allow us to kid ourselves that this is conscious, just like we allow ourselves to kid ourselves that there's God up in the sky and Jesus walked on water, and there's a particle called the Higgs boson, and all these sort of things. We allow all this kiddery going, but we don't listen to the physicists in the other room when they've told us for over 100 years that there is no particles.
Right.
What don't you get about that? There's no particles, fools, and yet you're trying to smash particles, and you're trying to find the Higgs boson, and you're trying to find the God particle, where scientists in the next fucking room, they're like, there is no, hello, no, there's no fucking matter. It's all conscious. That's all that there is. And that's what I do. Every time anybody poses a question, I'm like, well, fucking, if you want to dream about that, fucking dream about it. But as far as I'm concerned, it's all a dream. Because we aren't conscious. Find fucking consciousness. We can't find consciousness. But we know things are conscious. I'm assuming that you're conscious because we're having this, pretty in-depth conversation. So therefore, there is consciousness going. We're in consciousness.
Yeah.
And something, Rene Descartes, one last thing, Rene Descartes, he wrote in his meditations that it could just be that there's an evil demon somewhere which is kidding us, is programming us into thinking that we're real boys. And that is exactly a simulation. He
Yeah.
wrote about simulation in 1650.
Mhm. Let me ask you this. I mean, you see the world for how you are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So check this out. Like, do you believe in ancient history?
Ancient history. I don't believe anything.
Yeah. Because
You
the only
know,
reason I ask that is because if you see the world for how you are, right? I was just pondering on this. I'm like, if you see the world for how you are, how could the world have ever been before you were born? You know what I'm saying? What if nothing existed before you were born? You were just told of these things, and the moment you die, everything just stops. Like everything is
here's,
done.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the beautiful thing. Now, because you've read the book and it's a long
Hmm.
book, and so
Hmm.
you probably didn't remember all the details. But in that book, when I was seeking out what the Christian faith actually meant, and I was asking everybody, and I was talking to chaplains, and I was reading this book and that book, and I spent 6 months in the deep into Christian faith and this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden I had an epiphany. I'm like, oh my God. It's like the scientists trying to find consciousness, looking for consciousness with consciousness,
Yeah.
but not realizing that they are consciousness. And so I said to myself, because I was asking all these Christians, can you tell me what faith is? Because I don't get it. I can't compute it. Because for me, I either know it or I don't. I just can't have faith because faith is just imagining. It's
Hmm.
hope. I can hope that there's a Jesus or there's a heaven. I can imagine there's a hope and the Jesus. It's the